Are you still in high school, working your first job, and already thinking about building a life with someone? Or maybe you're 22, 23 years old, just got out of college, barely keeping up with rent, and still trying to hold down a serious relationship. Or maybe you're pushing 30, been with someone for years, your family won't stop asking questions, and deep down you just feel like something's not quite right yet. If any of that hit close to home, this video is for you. And before anything else, let me be straight about what I'm not saying. I'm not telling you to stop dating. I'm not telling you to be alone. I'm not saying love doesn't matter. Love matters. Relationships matter. Human connection matters. What I am saying is way more specific than that. If you're broke or just starting out from zero, getting married before you have financial stability might be the most expensive decision of your life. Not because marriage is bad, but because trying to build a family on top of debt and instability is like trying to build a house with no foundation. It'll hold up for a while, but the first storm that rolls in, it takes everything down. And in the next 14 minutes and 50 seconds, I'm gonna show you exactly why, with real data, real stories, and zero sugarcoating. The real cost of a wedding in the US, before life together even starts. Let me hit you with a number right off the bat. The average cost of a wedding in the United States in 2024 was $35,000. $35,000. That's more than a lot of people make in an entire year working full-time at the federal minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour. And here's the scary part, that's just the average. In New York, LA, Chicago, you're easily looking at $60, $70 grand. And people pay it. They throw it on a credit card, take out personal loans, borrow money from their parents. There's actually a name for this in academic circles, the wedding industrial complex. It's a $70 billion industry in the US, built to convince two people who are head over heels in love, that love is measured in peonies and LED DJ setups. A study from Emory University found something really fascinating and kind of dark. Couples who spent over $20,000 on their wedding are 3.5 times more likely to get divorced than couples who kept it under $1,000. Let that sink in for a second. The most expensive wedding might be the beginning of the end, because two young adults who are already stretched thin financially, after spending money they don't have on a single weekend party, start their life together carrying a debt that'll take years to pay off. And debt, my friend, is the silent killer of every relationship. Two minimum wages aren't actually two minimum wages. Okay, let's say you already got married, nothing fancy, small, just family. Here's the part nobody ever teaches you in school. The math of two low-income people living together doesn't work the way you think it does. Let's put it on paper. Two adults making minimum wage in the US. Each one, $1,256 a month. 40 hours a week at $7.25 harder. Combined income, $2,512 a month. Sounds doable, right? Now let's look at real life for a couple in an average American city, like Columbus, Ohio. Expense monthly cost. Rent, 1 bedroom, $1,100. Health insurance, $450. Groceries, $600. Transportation, 2-core or Uber, $500. Utilities, $180. Total, $2,830. You seeing the problem? With a combined income of $2,512. Just the basic expenses already hit $2,830. That's a $318 monthly deficit. And that's before you buy medicine, leave a tip, pay a parking ticket, or take your kid to the doctor. Oh, and I just said kid. Hang tight, I'll get to that in a minute. And this is Columbus, Ohio, not Manhattan. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. But when you have a family, the wants and the needs multiply fast." There's also something that nobody really talks about. Two low incomes under one roof equals two vulnerabilities, not one safety net. If one person loses their job, the other can't cover it alone. If one gets sick, the hospital bill crushes both of you. If the car breaks down, the whole month falls apart. You didn't double your security. You doubled your exposure to risk. It's Thursday night in Columbus, Ohio. Marcus is 24 years old. He works the afternoon shift at an Amazon warehouse. Gets home at 11 p.m. with his back aching and his feet killing him. Kylie, his 23-year-old wife, is sitting in the kitchen, not sleeping, waiting. She opens the laptop and shows him. Bank account, $84. Rent is due in 4 days. They don't fight. There's no energy left for fighting. There's just this heavy silence that's slowly moving into the space where love used to live. Marcus looks at her. Thinks about the ring he bought on an 18-month payment plan. Thinks about the wedding they threw in a rented hall with money they didn't have. Thinks about how right everything felt back then. And now, at 11 p.m. on a regular Thursday, he's thinking the only thing a tired, broke man can think. How did we even get here? The answer isn't a lack of love. The answer is that they built a house on sand. Aristotle, the APA, and the brutal link between poverty and divorce. It's not just me saying that poverty and early marriage don't mix. It's the science. Aristotle, way back in the 4th century BC, identified 3 types of friendship, and the same thing applies to love. Love based on pleasure, what we feel at the beginning. Love based on utility, what holds practical relationships together. Love based on virtue, the rarest kind, the most lasting. The problem is that most young marriages are born from the first type, and they just don't have the material foundation to ever reach the third. The American Psychological Association regularly publishes divorce data, and the numbers are rough. Marriages where both spouses are under 25. Divorce rate of roughly 6%. Top reasons cited for divorce: financial problems above cheating, communication, and compatibility. Household income under $25,000 a year. 30% higher chance of divorce compared to families making over $50,000. A study from Utah State University was even more blunt. Every additional $10,000 of debt in a marriage increases the probability of divorce by 7%. Think about that. Every $10,000 of debt. And a lot of people walk into marriage with $35,000 of wedding on their credit card. That's not being a pessimist. That's just math. Kids before you're ready. The cost nobody calculates. Now, I'm going to get into the topic that makes people the most uncomfortable, but I have to go there. The average cost of raising a child in the United States from birth to 18 years old is roughly $310,000. That's the average. And that doesn't include college. $310,000 divided by 18 years equals $17,222 per year. Per month, $4,435. Remember our Columbus, Ohio budget, the one that was already $318 in the hole every month. Now add $435 for a kid. And this is exactly where poverty becomes a cycle. In the US, 23% of kids live in single-parent households. Of those, 40% live below the poverty line. And the most common profile, a young mom, no degree, who had her first child before 25. I'm not judging anyone. I'm describing a systemic trap. It's 2 a.m. in Cincinnati. Dalen is 27 years old. She's up breastfeeding her second child. Her husband is asleep in the next room. He's up at 5 for work. She works part-time at a pharmacy. Her phone lights up with a bank notification. The account went negative. Again. She doesn't cry. She's past the crying phase. She opens a budgeting app and starts reworking the month for the 10th time. Cuts the streaming service. Cuts the gym. Cuts her own doctor's appointment. She looks down at the baby in her arms and thinks about how much she wishes this little one had a more ready version of her as a mom. Not less loving, more ready. The most valuable asset most people just throw away. There's something your 20s have that no other phase of life gives you. It's called personal risk capital. Meg Jay, clinical psychologist and author of The Defining Decade, puts it like this. The 20s are the most transformative decade of adulthood. What you do in this decade matters more than what you do in any other. Your 20s are your window of positive volatility. It's the only time in your life when you can. Quit a bad job without feeling like the world's ending. Pack up and move from Ohio to Seattle, because there's an opportunity out there. Start completely over in a different field. Make aggressive financial bets, with enough time to recover if they don't pan out. Economists call this optionality, the value of keeping your options open. A smart investor would never exercise all their options at once, because closing options has a massive cost. Getting married young, especially when there's debt and kids involved, closes options at a brutal speed. You can't just pick up and move anymore. You can't take that startup job with lower pay, but real equity. You can't go back to school full-time. You can't spend 6 months building a side income from scratch. None of that becomes impossible after you get married. But every single one of those moves now requires negotiation, coordinating with another person, figuring out the kids, restructuring your whole life. You're not blocked from moving forward. You're just carrying an extra 90 pounds on your back. Identity, religion, family, and the cultural trap. Now I need to talk about something that's harder to put a number on. The pressure. If you grew up in a Latino, Caribbean, religious, or immigrant family in the US, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. There's this unwritten social script: date, get engaged, get married, have kids. And if you step off that script, there's a real social cost. The aunt's comments, the looks at church, that unavoidable question every Thanksgiving. So when are you two gonna make it official? Meet Daniel, 25 years old, son of Salvadoran immigrants in Los Angeles. He got married at 23 because that's just what you did. Because his girlfriend was a great person, the family loved her, and it felt like it was time. Not because he was financially ready. Not because he'd built anything yet. But because in the culture he grew up in, marriage was a sign of maturity, not a result of it. 2 years later, Daniel and his wife are in couples therapy, trying to work through fights that have nothing to do with love. They're about money, stress, exhaustion. There's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with family. The problem is when cultural pressure replaces personal planning. When you get married to follow a social script, and not because you've actually built the foundation to handle what marriage really demands. So, is the answer to never get married? No. Everything I've said so far might make it sound like I'm telling you, don't get married. Ever. Stay single. Stack your money in peace. That's not it. Let me be really clear. The problem isn't marriage. The problem is the order. There's a concept in finance called foundations before leverage. You don't take out a massive loan to invest when you don't even have an emergency fund. Same principle applies to life. You don't build a family before you've built the conditions that'll actually hold that family together. Couples who get married after 28, with stable income, no credit card debt, and at least 3 months of savings, have some of the lowest divorce rates across all age groups, according to data from the National Center for Family and Marriage Research. The probability of divorce drops by 54% for every additional year of maturity between ages 20 and 30. 54% per year. So what am I actually saying? Not wait until you're 30. It's build first. Build a career that gives you stability. Build your savings, pay off your debt. Develop income skills. And while you're building all of that, build the relationship too. Get to know the person deeply. Live together. Work through real conflicts. Understand each other's money values. Because there's a massive difference between marrying for love, when you have a foundation and you're choosing that person. Marrying out of fear of being alone, fear of letting your family down, fear that the window is closing. The first kind of marriage has a real shot. The second kind of marriage is a contract signed on sand. If you're in your 20s and you're struggling financially, this is the most important thing anyone can tell you today. You're not behind. You're building. And building takes time. Don't sacrifice your foundation for social impatience. Don't confuse cultural urgency with real urgency. The greatest gift you can give a future spouse and future kids is showing up ready. If this video made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because it's easy to hear, but because the truth, when you actually act on it, is the most valuable thing there is. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.